And this is The In Show. And I'm your host, Gus Summers. Good to be back with you today. We got another great show. We have in-studio guest, Ray Chao, actor, writer, producer. Wow.
Go on. The list goes on, Gus.
That's it. They need to take a look at your website. I promoted that on The In Show, of course.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think there's interesting things out there, not just on my page, but on your page. So hopefully our listeners will take a look at it.
Absolutely. Since we brought that up, why don't you give them your web address?
It's a very creative name. It's www.raychao.com. Gus, I actually had a fight for that domain name for about 3 years. A squatter had it for some unknown reason. And finally, one day, I would check on it, and it was available. And I'm not that .org type kind of guy. I'm a .com kind of guy.
Sure, understand. That's great. 3 years.
I waited 3 years, and it always expired on January 1st. So every New Year's Eve, I would go home at midnight and try to get it. And I failed 3 years in a row. It just kept renewing. And finally, 1 year,
it was there.
It was 09. It was there. And I will never give it up. So all you other Ray Chaos out there, don't even bother.
Don't try. So were you scrambling for your credit card?
Right.
Where's my credit card?
Right. Don't even try.
That's great. So was their name at least Ray Chao? Do you know who the owner was?
I don't know. You know what? You can find all that out.
Yes, right.
And it was some company. It was in Europe,
right?
And they just own it. I think it's a big business. I mean, I haven't dabbled in it, but I think what they do is if they read about a 7th grader who wins, a baseball tournament, they they register his domain name on the hopes that someday he'll become really famous, and then they can charge millions of dollars.
Yes,
but
yes.
Obviously, my name was worth 3 years worth of time, and then
$10.
This guy ain't going nowhere.
and lo and behold, here you are.
Yeah, lo and behold,
film festivals.
Yeah,
and
I showed them.
That's right.
I hope they're listening to the In Show. If they're in, they should be. But I hope they're listening to it and they're just kind of. Just
grinding their teeth.
We should have one more year.
Blimey.
One more year.
That's right. We should have waited. So talking about film festivals, we met at the Los Angeles Film Festival.
We did. We met at the LA Film Fest. Good friend of mine, Jeff Grace, had produced and starred in It's a Disaster. And it was a disaster because I kept scrambling for a ticket. Finally got a ticket because it was sold out. But just wonderful, culture in LA in particular. I think the film festivals are always a blast, but in LA it's even more fun because it's just like everyone is there.
Yes. And it was great because, matter of fact, I had an opportunity to talk to Kevin Brennan, interviewed him afterwards, and also Todd Berger. So, they're very, very nice gentlemen. Great
those
interview.
Guys, that core group, I think they go by the Vacationers, isn't that their
I believe so. Right.
Those guys, I've never worked with them, although if they want to hire me, I'm available.
Of course.
Those guys, just nice guys, and it's been really nice to see their success.
It is. Now, you were just at the Chicago.
I was at a film festival in Cincinnati. It was called the CNKY Scene Film Festival. CNKY stands for Cincinnati in Kentucky. I didn't realize Cincinnati is so close to Kentucky. They practically consider themselves siblings. I was there for a film festival founded by Chuck Beatty. It was the first annual film festival. I wish them much success because it was run really, really well. And a short film that I produced and directed, and I actually wrote it, called Little Buddies, was selected to screen. And there was about 20 films, great caliber films, and at our question and answer, all three of the filmmakers were from LA. There are 3 LA-based filmmakers, so that was really quite a coincidence.
All within blocks of each other.
Yeah, and we had to meet in Cincinnati. But again, as I said about film festivals, it's nice because you meet people like this, and now now we're back home. Maybe we can collaborate on something. It's really great.
So let's talk a little bit about the film that you had into.
Well, this film called Little Buddies. Stars David R. Chandler and Jess Ryan Williams. It's about a 14-year-old boy and his uncle, and it's just a late-night conversation. It's a very quiet piece, and you learn a lot about them and how they got to be a family, And at first, you're not really sure if they're going to make it, but by the end of the film, you realize that they are going to make it. So it was definitely a great experience. It was my first film made in LA, and I met a lot of great people. And this is our second film festival, so I'm hoping to continue submitting to film festivals and getting it seen around the country.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Because I know you live in LA now, but you lived in New York.
Yep.
You did plays on Broadway and the whole deal, and then Chicago.
Within throwing distance of Broadway.
Of course.
Unfortunately, Cats was no longer on Broadway. Otherwise, I would have been a shoo-in for Cats. But yeah, I did theater for about 4 years in New York, which is a great experience. I think any actor could really appreciate just the culture in New York in terms of theater culture. It's very solid, very professional, and really a great way to kind of learn your craft. But you know, I did a lot of acting, great opportunities to act in a lot of off Broadway. Also directed, produced, you know, did the whole gambit in New York.
You bet. So tell us, you're originally from?
Chicago. Go Cubs, go
That's
Cubs.
That's right.
This is the year.
This is the year.
Actually, it's not. But
The hopes, the fingers are crossed. Absolutely. So, how old were you when you decided to, follow the acting bug?
I started acting in a roundabout way. I was formerly an attorney. I worked as a lawyer, a prosecutor in Chicago, and I also taught law school. And one of my students, Lenny Wheelis, one day said, "Oh, I'm doing improv at Second City. Come see my show." I said, "That's great." So I went to her show, and I thought, hey, that looks like a lot of fun. I think I could do that. It's kind of the same thing, in court. I'm telling stories all along, trying to win over an audience. I could do that on stage. So I started performing improv and taking classes at Second City and doing some stand-up. And, it really kind of got the acting bug there. And then that's when I decided, I'm going to move to New York, try to further develop my acting career. So I worked as a lawyer in New York and acted part-time. And then I made the wise decision to just, I'm just going to quit my job, and I drove cross country to LA, and now I'm here for good.
Now you're here good, and no jobs, no.
Or
you get a lot of advice.
I don't have a steady income, so that is kind of a problem. But it's like anything. You just kind of start over, and you just kind of put together, work here and there, and you hope for the best.
Yeah, that's right. Well, following your dream.
I am following my dream, and I think the wonderful thing is the reason I'm able to do this is I really, really enjoyed being an attorney. I had a great job, and I wasn't running away from anything. I wasn't, I wasn't miserable anywhere. I was happy, but now I'm happier.
You don't have that caseload of people following you because you're.
No.
I got to go to New York.
I didn't have to. Yeah, I mean, people think I'm under the Federal Witness Protection Program or something, but I'm not.
Having your face splashed over the internet and being broadcast live may not be the best. hiding place.
And getting RayChao.com would not be a wise step if I was undercover.
Imagine? Let's look for Ray Chao. There he is right there.
How'd they find me?
That's a good little play.
Yeah.
That reminds me. Do you remember a movie with Dave Foley, The Wrong Guy?
The Wrong Guy. I don't.
He thought everyone was after him, and
no
one
paranoid?
was. You're right,
yeah.
And no one was, and they're after me because he happened to be in the same spot as
right.
crimes every time something happened.
What was his name? I hope he had a really common name or something.
In the movie I don't rember.
Yeah.
But it was Dave Foley. Remember Dave Foley from News
do.
Radio and everything. Funny character, but it kind of reminded me of that. They're following me. No one's following you, Ray.
It is. It's kind of like a narcissistic personality too. If you think everyone's after you.
No one likes me.
Yeah.
There's a few people who don't like it. I think the
Stop
whole
following
world.
Me, right. It's like, well, you ordered the pizza, right?
I was just going to say that. Yeah. Here's your latte. What do you want?
Here's your pizza.
Hey, Ray, well, it's great. It's we got to take a quick commercial break. But, hey, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. All right. Hey, well, this is Gus Summers, and you're listening to The In Show. And we have in-studio guest Ray Chao. And we're going to have a lot more of his story in our next segments. So you hang in there. We're going to be right back. And this is The In Show. And I'm your host, Gus Summers. And we have in-studio guest, Ray Chao. Ray, thanks for being with us again.
Hey, thanks, Gus.
No problem. So, you started off as a lawyer. So, were you watching Perry Mason and Matlock and all those things when you were a kid instead of all the.
I kind of fell into the law. Just I was working with a lot of kids and kind of gangs and delinquency, things like that, and kind of just something just flashed in my brain that maybe I could pursue a career in law and work with kids and families, and that's what I did.
So, what was the family impression when you said, "I'm quitting law and becoming an actor"?
Oh well, I think overall pretty good. I know you listeners can't tell, but I'm Asian. And so, like, in the Asian culture, like, I basically, my parents, said you can do whatever you want in life as long as you're a doctor or a lawyer. Right. So, I went according to plan for quite a long time. And the thing that I've seen that's been really nice is when I come to Los Angeles, there's so many Asian actors and people in film, and of all races and things, and but the one commonality for the Asian actors is when you look at their resumes, they all have like advanced degrees. Like, oh, I'm an electrical engineer, oh, I'm an MBA, but they're doing this kind of part-time or trying to forge a career, and I think our parents are begrudgingly kind of getting more accepted. And it helps to have more Asians on television and on films too as well, because then our parents realize, like, oh, maybe they can make money off of this.
Yeah, right. That's great. So, siblings, you have siblings?
Yeah, I have an older brother. He's back in Chicago, and he's a lawyer.
But you're going to say doctor.
Yeah, well, my sister-in-law is a doctor, so they're sticking with the plan. They're sticking with the plan, and I'm the one that's a little bit sidetracked.
Well, as the younger sibling, of course, you have to sow your wild oats and everything else.
Of course.
So, you went to law school. You were a lawyer in Chicago.
Yep, and in New York.
New York.
I just gave that up October 2010.
Wow, just recently. And you thought about becoming an entertainment lawyer?
I have not really thought about that. I feel like I came out here to pursue a certain goal, so I'm going to give it, that focus. And then, I'm really lucky. I mean, there's worse fallbacks than being a lawyer, and I think if I need to do that, I'll figure out what the best area of law would be.
An entertainment lawyer, especially being in entertainment, it's perfect. You can look at your own paperwork.
Yeah, I can get my own 10% cut.
That's it.
Yeah.
So you're in New York, and your first acting gig was what?
Oh, gee, that's a good question. I don't remember what my first acting gig was in New York. I guess it wasn't that momentous.
It was, let me hold the door for you.
Yeah,
like
Usher. No, I don't remember. I was really lucky in New York. I did a lot of great theater, worked with a lot of great people. I did a couple short films, a couple commercials, but I was working 9 to 5. Right. And I think, as any actor knows, you have to kind of balance your bill-paying job with your creative job, and it's much harder when you have a 9 to 5 with very little flexibility. But I had a lot of great projects in New York. I had a great time.
So when did you start training for an actor? Was that in New York, Chicago?
Well, most of my comedy training was in Chicago at the Second City, and then in New York I continued at Upright Citizens Brigade, mostly improv and comedy. Took a couple acting classes here and there, but never really formally studied acting, and it might show in my acting, I don't know. But, just on stage, I'm very much, I don't have any real technique or anything. It's just, I just learn my lines and then I play with the character, and I think that my improvisation background really helps because I give the director different versions of things, and they usually tell me what they like and what they don't like. Not formally trained, but something I would like to pursue if I could.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but being a lawyer and presenting cases actually gave you, I think, a stronger foothold in doing what you're.
Absolutely. I think being a trial attorney and being in court and just on my feet, not only just responding to objections or the judge or questions or things, but just presentation. I think a lot of acting is about communication. Are you a good communicator? Can you communicate? And kind of being in the moment. I think one thing a good trial lawyer learns is you really have to be in the moment. You have to be listening and respond accordingly. You can't follow your script too closely because you don't know what's going to come around the corner.
Something out of left field.
Yeah, exactly.
I object.
Exactly.
I object to what?
But that's not in the script. Counselor, I'm sorry. You have to wait.
You have to wait, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't come into 5
Right,
minutes and
right.
30 seconds into
Right.
it. So you go to New York, and you said you also had a chance to produce and write a couple things over there. How
Yeah.
did that come about?
I just think I was, I've always been a writer. I've always enjoyed writing, so I started writing some one acts, and I'd always written sketch comedy, and that was something that I'd always really enjoyed. And I thought, I'm going to try to write a little bit more dramatic. Everything I write has elements of comedy in it. I think that's just my personality. But it was really great for me to start writing things that are a little bit more dramatic. So, for example, Little Buddies. Actually, we did that off-Broadway in New York. And we actually did it at the Hollywood Fringe last year as a theater piece. And then also now as a film. It's actually a very serious play or script, but it has elements of comedy in it. And so the audience does laugh throughout, but it's a serious piece, and I feel like that's been kind of the area I've really been trying to foster, just more serious pieces and with elements of comedy.
Well, like life. We all laugh occasionally.
Yeah. Like life, yeah, like my life, yeah. Lots of drama and laughs every once in a while. But that was great. New York has a great theater community, and actually I think I'm finding, it's all about where to look, and I feel like the LA theater scene is really blossoming, and I shouldn't say blossoming. I'm sure it's always been very good, but I'm finding myself connecting with people that are very serious about stage work. I understand it's hard to balance stage work and film and TV work, but the skill set is still the same to a large degree, and the audience is so appreciative. So.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And once you start getting yourself involved in it, and you start seeing all the different avenues.
Exactly.
From both sides. Not just as from the audience, but as a performer as well.
Absolutely, and there's so much overlap. And when I first came to Los Angeles and started trying to produce some theater, everything is just on its own terms. So, for example, in New York, because real estate is such a premium, it was very expensive to produce theater in New York. And also, you're so limited because the spaces are so cramped. And I remember my first couple of productions in LA. First of all, the theater space was relatively cheap. And secondly, it was amazing to actually be able to rehearse in the space. Because in New York, typically you rehearse in small, cramped little studios, and then maybe 3 days before you open, you get to see the space. And here, the actor's like, what do you mean we're not in the space? We open in 4 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, that is such a luxury to
Right.
have, actually step foot in the space. And, it was great because coming from my background, I thought, oh my God, this is so helpful to the production.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but it's like anything in life. Everything has its own everything has its pros and cons.
Right. But a very different story if you're trying to get a studio stage. So
Yeah, exactly.
How long you want to be in here? Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
you got
all by the
you
hour.
got 24
exactly.
minutes. That's
and
it.
it's a really different way of production.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm very impressed with the theater scene in LA. Despite what some people usually say is not so great, I find it's pretty wonderful, very nurturing too.
So are you going to take Little Buddies back to the stage after you do the rounds of some of the festivals?
I think Little Buddies is not going to go back to the stage. I think I have another short that I wrote, and I'm trying to get that produced in the near future. It's called The Dance Lesson, and actually one of the actors in it is Ashton Moyo, who was in The Hunger Games, and a very talented young actor, and I need to film this before he grows up. And it's very interesting because in what's that saying about from the words of babes come
from the mouth of babes.
Yeah. And David Chandler, who is in Little Buddies, I think he's around 14. I was telling him about these ideas. He said, "Oh, that would be a great pilot." And then, it was a great idea. And then I have a trilogy of these short films, Little Buddies and then now The Dance Lesson. And there are some themes that overlap. So I am going to try to film these and then pitch them as a pilot.
Wow, fantastic.
And I
Look at
owe that all to, young man who had had the creative insight that I lacked.
At the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
I look forward to it. Ray, thanks again for coming in. I appreciate
course.
it. All right. Well, this is Gus Summers, and you've been listening to The In Show. And we have in-studio guest, Ray Chao. And, of course, we'll have a lot more of him and his great ideas in our next segment. So you hang in there. We'll be right back. And this is The In Show. And I'm your host, Gus Summers. We got another great show. We have in-studio guest, Ray Chao. Actor, producer, writer, Hollywood star, Broadway star.
I think that's that's about covers it.
Well, let's not forget a
Good
trial
job,
attorney, and both in Chicago and New York.
All around nice guy.
So you had to. Each state has its own examination, so you had to take one for New York, right?
Yes, and then there's the California one that's notoriously the most difficult. So I've been resistant to that. So.
And it's interesting that in California you can just take the test and become a lawyer.
Yeah.
So that that's a little side note for anybody who wants to become a lawyer.
Aspiring actors who want to be aspiring lawyers. And Gus, coincidentally, the bar exam is today in California. It's
and you're
today.
here and you skipped it for us.
I know. I
Thank you
skipped
very much.
it. Yeah. I took the first 2 days and said the in show is more important.
That's right. That's how it is. We get that a lot. So, I want to talk about some upcoming things. Because I know
great.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I have a couple of things coming up. I'm still auditioning like mad, and I got cast in a short film coming up. It's called Rehab, directed by Jason Castle, and just a funny, nice young man. And Rehab is kind of a take on rehab. So I'm looking forward to filming that. And I'm also going to be a non-singing member of the LA Opera production of Don Giovanni coming up this fall at the LA Opera. So I'm looking forward to that. I've never done anything on that scale.
Yes.
And, that's another opportunity that just kind of fell in my lap and something I never thought I would do. But, my acting career is still there, and if anyone is looking for a comic actor, Asian, naturally funny, let me know.
Naturally funny.
But
witty and I love it.
I'm also involved in a film festival called the Chicago Comedy Film Festival. It's in Chicago.
Yes.
I don't know how they came up with that.
Yes.
But this is the second year, and it was created by friends of mine, Jessica Hardy and her husband Brent, and it's the niche is obviously comedy, and I'm on the selection panel, and I'm going to be one of the jurors. So I'm seeing all this great content from all over the world. It's amazing how funny people are, and I hope they're intending to be funny. But these are shorts and features, and it's a great event. It's going to be in November, and I'll be in Chicago for that, my hometown. And if people want to check that out, it's ChicagoComedyFilmFestival.com, and it's a great opportunity for people that are really naturally funny or unnaturally funny to get together.
It's funny that you said that. It's occasion in my mind because we're talking about It's a Disaster, and I was thinking about Todd Berger. He said, there were planned moments where there was going to be humor, and so during our interview, he said, they did that. People laughed, and then they laughed when they weren't supposed to laugh. So it's like, ha, ha, oh, ha, ha. And so it makes that's hilarious.
It's really funny, how subjective comedy really is, and I don't think you really realize it until you're attached to something and you see multiple screenings of it.
Yes.
So with film festivals, a lot of times some of the bigger festivals, you see your work 5, 6, 7 times. I had a film in Sundance back in 2009, and I went to 4 of the screenings. And it was funny because the film was still the same, but there are times you'd be in the audience like, oh, this is going to get a big laugh. Oh, they're going to love this. And no laughter whatsoever. And then you're kind of like, that's odd. And then something else will happen, and for some reason it'll just, strike a nerve with the audience, and they'll start laughing. And sometimes laughter is infectious, but it's so helpful as a filmmaker or a writer or an actor to be able to observe that. And it does tell you, comedy really is very subjective.
It is. It's true. Because, I'll go to screenings, and then, you'll be watching a movie, and suddenly you hear just these sporadic people laugh.
Yeah.
Ha, 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 ha. It was like... Are you involved in the movie somehow?
Exactly.
And you thought it was funny?
Right. Unlike drama, like drama, you cry when the villain,
Right.
or when the hero gets killed or something.
Yeah.
It's not like in a drama you'll burst out into tears.
Yeah,
I get it.
why are you
yeah,
crying?
right. It's like that's not supposed to be dramatic.
And it's true, and it always happens. You always got these spots of, ah, ha, ha. It's like, what are you laughing at? Obviously, it's a personal joke.
Exactly. But that's you gotta love it. And again, having a theater background, I think that's even more apparent in theater, where you're on stage and you just can't really respond to it. That's why when you're on stage, you can't like pause. Like you can't assume that you're going to get a laugh, because chances are, if you assume you're going to get a laugh, you're not going to get a laugh. Right. And then suddenly you're just kind of doing the
yeah, like
ta-da, and then everyone's looking
crickets,
at you. Right.
Chirping, silence.
And then well, I guess that didn't go over very well.
Yeah. Talking about comedy, favorite comedy, do you have one, or top three?
Oh, favorite comedies. Comics or comedies?
Comedies, movies, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Plays. Yeah, sure.
You know what? The great thing about LA and the culture is these opportunities to kind of revisit the history. And I signed up to view this. It's called the Last 70 Millimeter Film Festival. Okay. And it's about all these old films that were filmed in 70 millimeter format. And I went to the first screening, and it was called they screened It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, which I had never seen. It was done in '63, and it had every famous
actor,
comedian possible. It was amazing. And I did not know this, but I went there, and I was, it was at the Academy, a beautiful theater, and they're like, oh, we're going to have a question and answer. And Billy Crystal came out, and then Carl Reiner came out, and Mickey Rooney came out, and Jonathan Winters came out. All these wonderfully talented people came out, and they talked about the movie and what it was like. And then I watched the movie, and it's funny because comedy can seem somewhat dated sometimes. Like, some of the jokes were kind of a little bit cheesy, right? Sure. But I think it comes down to timing, in their expressions, and you cannot get better than that cast. And so I'm a big fan of this movie, and it only took me, 55 years to find it. Right. No one says I'm not on the cutting edge. But, I'd have to say I was very impressed with that, and, I enjoy all types of genres, particularly comedy. So.
Is there a particular comic like Billy Crystal or...
Well, I was really impressed with Billy Crystal and his ability to moderate that question and answer with all these legendary comics. I think I have a lot of different comics that I like. I tend to be more understated, so I think any of those more observational type comics I really like. But that's just because I probably just relate to it better. Right. But I can appreciate all types of comedies, so... Yes. I guess no clear-cut favorite.
No clear-cut favorite.
Yeah.
Is there something that you've seen recently besides a dated movie that you said, that's great? The last 5 years.
Last 5 years.
And I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's hard. I'm a very easy person to please. I really can find value in almost anything.
That's great.
I'll go to anything. I have very eclectic tastes. I'll give you an example. I just have horrible taste in music. And one day I was in Chicago, and I had a convertible, and I had my CDs on my front seat. And I can't remember all the CDs, but I know one of them was Gladys Knight and the Pips, I think. Is that the name of the group? Yes. And then just some maybe that, Poison, and really a weird group of 4 or 5 CDs on my passenger seat. And I had forgotten something, so I was walking back to my apartment, and these pedestrians were walking by, and they glanced in, and they started making fun of my music taste. And I, of course, was like, oh, I gotta pretend that's not my car. I just kept walking, But they were berating my taste in music.
Look what he likes.
Exactly. And I'm glad I made their day, because they were laughing about it for another 3 blocks. But
and of course you got their fingerprints.
Yeah, I should have immediately arrested them. You were called in a call, suspicious.
Suspicious couple, yeah. There's a short right there in itself.
Yeah.
Ray, again, thanks for coming in.
Of course,
appreciate it. All right, well, you know what we're about to do? Yeah, quick commercial break. Well, this is Gus Summers, and you've been listening to The In Show, and we have in-studio guest Ray Chao. And we're going to have more of him and his stories in our next segment. So you hang in there. We'll be right back. And this is The In Show. And I'm your host, Gus Summers. And we are broadcasting live from the entertainment capital of the world. That's right, Hollywood, right on the Sunset Strip. And we have a great in-studio guest, Ray Chao. Ray, again, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Gus. I'm really enjoying this.
Oh, appreciate it. So I want to give you an opportunity to talk about anything that's coming up, your website, of course, Facebook, Twitter, anything you got out there, please.
Great, Gus. I appreciate that. I know part of your mission is to kind of get these artists out there and
Yes.
perhaps possibly networking. I mean, who knows out there? Someone might be listening and thinking like, oh, that's someone that I don't want to work with or someone I want to work with. But, I feel like, the last 18 months in LA, I've truly embodied what an independent artist is. I mean,
Yes.
I'm just learning and meeting people and just really a lot of trial by error. But, a lot of it's building blocks and just ideas. Last year for the Hollywood Fringe, it wasn't Hollywood Fringe. I did a theater show with a buddy named Joe Morgan, and he's from New York as well, and he has a passion for producing theater. And we decided that we were going to try to branch out and do other things. So we're coming up with this project. It's called The Final 3 Minutes. So I want you all to remember this is where you heard it first, The Final 3 Minutes. And in a sense, we're trying to create opportunities for other filmmakers that have limited resources to get into the film festival circuit. So for those of you who don't know, the film festival circuit is very expensive, it's very competitive, but it's very rewarding. And the concept of the final 3 minutes is filmmakers will be submitting 3-minute live videos of the last 3 minutes before the Earth implodes. And we want this to be an annual event. We're going to tell you what the disaster is. This first one is going to be pretty generic. Basically, a meteor is going to destroy the Earth in 3 minutes. So we want to see your video of the last 3 minutes on Earth. And then from those, we're going to edit a feature-length film of these vignettes and then submit them to film festivals. So hopefully that'll be a way for someone who has limited resources to be part of a great experience and be in a film festival. So our web page is not up yet, but it's going to be the final 3, the number 3, the final3minutes.com, and we're going to have all the way to submit and things like that and the deadlines, and we're hoping for some great submissions, and that way we can get a lot of people kind of involved, and share our resources.
Nice.
So that's something I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah.
And I'd be remiss if we have a third producer on board, and I'm just going to mention his name. He doesn't really do anything, but his name is Charlie McDanger. And, with a name like that, I mean, I feel like it just is worth mentioning, Gus.
You bet.
Charlie McDanger, everyone.
Charlie McDanger. Sounds like it's a made-up name.
Gus, no. I'm sure it's not a made-up name. Right, Charlie?
Like what's her name? And those kids cartoons, Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah.
The Adventure of Charlie.
Yeah, I like
Charlie
The
Danger.
Adventures of Charlie Mick Danger.
Oh, Mick Danger.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Charlie Danger. Charlie Mick Danger.
Mick Danger.
I like that. I like that a lot, Gus.
Hey, you see?
That's how ideas happen.
Yeah, you bet. You
Yeah.
bet.
But the only other big project I have on the burners is actually a year ago, I was fortunate enough to direct a scripted piece, The Real Housewives of William Shakespeare.
Yes.
It played at Second City Hollywood. We sold out, did a great job, and they invited us back in December to remount the show for their annual fundraiser. So that was a great privilege. And I'm working on the sequel to it, which is, it's actually not going to be Housewives again. It's called the Hunger Games of Thrones. So it's a mashup of that, and obviously a comedy. And I'm really looking forward to finishing that script any day now, and then hopefully I'm hoping Second City Hollywood will be our host again.
Beautiful. And you said it's going to be in December that you can see this again.
Yeah, I'm targeting for a winter show.
Okay.
I think that's a really good time for theater. When the temperature dips below 72,
Yes.
people want to go inside.
Yes, they don't. Yeah, put the scarf, the glove.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, coming from Chicago, I've yet to wear a coat in Los Angeles.
Which is usually the case from anyone back east. It's like, oh, it's not 56. It's not even summer for us yet.
You could definitely tell someone who's not from Los Angeles because they never wear coats and never wear scarves and hats.
They're always in the jeans and the polo shirts. Yeah, you bet.
Exactly.
So what? How about your website? Why don't you give us your website address?
Great. It's www.raychao.com. RAYCHAO.com. Oh, and my production company is
Yes.
No Laughing Matter, and it's at www.nolaughingmatter.org. And no is spelled KNOW. So
Right.
it's nolaughingmatter.org. And you can follow along and see what happens to this former prosecutor, aspiring
Actor, producer, writer.
Yeah.
Well, you got the producing done. You got the directing done. So now you're just venturing further.
I think so. It's bigger and better. That's the goal.
Absolutely. So right now, you're going to be you have you're cast in an opera, but it's
Right.
a non-singing part. You were saying.
Correct.
Okay. Are you a singer?
I am not a singer, and so coming up through comedy, I've sung on stage literally 100 times, Gus.
Sure.
I'm not even exaggerating. I sing all the time on stage, but I cannot sing. And people always say, "Oh, that's not true. Just sell it. Everyone can sing." But I have two examples of how I can proof that I cannot sing.
Okay.
One is I was in a show and there was a song that was written for me to sing, and I was like, "I can't sing that." Like, that's okay. Just sell it. We rehearsed it once, and then it got cut. Okay. And as a comic, I want to sing and I love singing. And in my mind, when I sing, I sound like Celine Dion. I mean,
Sure.
I definitely, that's what I hear.
Yeah, you
But
bet.
I know better because I was taking singing lessons private lessons from this woman, very nice woman. I wish I could remember her name. Very nice woman. And I was taking private lessons trying to improve my singing. And I had asked her, I said, "Do you believe anyone can sing? It's just a matter of, learning how." She said, "Yeah, absolutely. Everyone can sing to a passable level." I'm like, "Great." So after about 4 lessons, I went to my 5th lesson. She refused to take my money, and she said, "Ray, I really don't feel right taking your money." And that was my last lesson. So, folks, don't ever say that anyone can sing, because when you have like a paid person, like someone I would pay to teach me how to sing, saying, "Ethically, I cannot take your money," that is proof positive. And I'm a former attorney. That is proof positive that I cannot sing. But again, many of you, my friends, have heard me sing all the time.
Sell it. Sell it.
When you're on stage and especially in improv, if you have to sing.
So you're in this opera. Sell it. While everyone else is singing, you do like everyone else and just say watermelon, mouth watermelon.
Yeah, luckily they know I don't sing, and it's really a it's a peripheral role. I mean, in the movie industry we call it an extra, but in opera they're called supers.
Yes.
I like
Yes.
that. I'm a super. But I guess in Don Giovanni we're very active because we actually serve meals, like we're waiters in one scene, and then in another one there's 5 of us and we're demons, and we actually pull Don Giovanni into hell. So I just met a young lady in Chicago who actually was an opera singer, and she was familiar with the play, and she said, "Oh, she's like, you're gonna do tons of stuff," and so that's gonna be exciting.
That's exciting.
And it's actually to the audience is better off not having me sing.
And on a serious note, one of the things that I've noticed, doing the show and talking with people, is they wear many hats, and and not just metaphorically, hey, I wear many hats, but truly as they pursue their dream in one part. Like, for instance, you're a producer, you produce, and people who haven't done that don't know the difficulty that goes into producing and directing and writing, and now here you're acting, and they all have their own different levels, but they're all so important. Unless they've been involved in what you're doing, you wear so many hats, they can't get the grasp of it.
Absolutely. I firmly believe any project is really a team effort. And in order for me to be the better actor or director or whatever role, I need to know what it's like to do other people's jobs. And so, for example, I've never done opera, but, I just think opera is such a spectacle, and I want to know how to, how it works. And I'm constantly learning on set or on stage. For example, this final 3-minute project came about because I started working with the Chicago Comedy Film Festival. Although I attended maybe 20 different festivals around the country, I never really knew how a festival was run. Now I know how a festival is run and how the films get submitted and screened, and that's going to only help me as a director or someone submitting to film festivals. And then from that came this idea, I feel sorry for people who maybe don't have the money to submit to film festivals.
Yes.
How can we get them involved?
Yes.
Oh, let's do this 3-minute thing, And I think those are how I think projects usually are successful, if people kind of have a clear idea of what they're trying to accomplish, and then how to do it, and what are all the pieces of that puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and partly, if I was just an actor, I would be unemployed. My job would be being unemployed, because I would just be unemployed. So, in lieu of that, I just started,
looking for other avenues.
Yeah, looking for.
And so, yeah, exactly. And what's great about it is that you're a great example for people who think, well, I can't do it. Sure you can. In some places you're the driver, someone else you're
Absolutely.
the passenger, sometimes you're in the back seat, but each place is so important, and that you move, accordingly. It always reminds me of, remember Pete Rose? Every time you switch the team, they say, well, we need a first baseman. No, I'll do it.
Right.
And did he ever play first base? No, but he still went at it, and then he became a great first baseman or shortstop, whatever he did.
Well, you're not the first person to call me the Pete Rose of acting. Gus. Maybe I think you're the second.
I'm the second. Besides Pete Rose.
Yeah.
Hey, Pete Rose.
Yeah, Pete Rose was the first. You're the second.
You remind me of me.
I think you're absolutely right. For example, I remember being on sets as the actor,
right,
and I would grab the boom mic if I wasn't in the scene.
Right.
And of course, they were always organized. Oh, you don't do that. I'm like, no problem. Like, I want to do it. I want to learn how to do it.
I want to learn. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. So yeah, that's fantastic. Great example of what's called for today. You have to be able to do so many things. Ray, again, the hour went quick, but thanks for coming in and sharing your stories and all your upcoming projects.
Gosh, my pleasure, Gus. My pleasure.
Yeah, I'm sure glad we met. Hey, thanks again. We'll have you on soon.
Hope so.
All right. Hey, well, this is Gus Summers, and you've been listening to The In Show. And we had in-studio guest Ray Chao. And be sure to look for him on Twitter, Facebook, all those great sites. And, of course, come to theinshow.com, where we'll have links, and we'll have this interview up there very shortly so you can see it again and, of course, forward it and share it with everybody. Of course, we're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, all those great social media sites. So definitely check us out there, and we'll be back next time.